Pew pew, pew pew. I don't do finger guns. They make me uncomfortable. Hi team! It's time for an update. I cleaned my studio again. I am using it as a, or I was using it as a stall tactic for the Princess Tiana situation, the Regency Sailor Mercury situation, and a couple of other things I had on the table. It is currently the end of August. I'm on vacation this week, so that's exciting. And by vacation, I mean, sitting in my house trying to clean things and get the kids ready for school. So, yay, vacation, which I don't mind doing. I am a homebody, so that doesn't bother me at all. I like having the option of staying up late and sewing or watching TV, but mostly sewing. Yeah, so what we are doing, I have my coffee and I have my planner, and it has notes in it, so. Okay, so what have I been up to? Like I said, I cleaned my studio again. I put all of my fabric, most of my fabric, I put most of my fabric, at least the natural fibers, I guess. I put them into bins because I noticed that there were some little friends that didn't belong in my fabric. Nothing huge, well, nothing huge that I've found so far, but I did have one wool that had little holes in it, and I didn't find anything in the wool, but there were just these random tiny holes. Now, there could have been something in the wool when it was sent to me and I just didn't notice it. I need to find the gown that I made out of the rest of the wool to figure out if it was just an issue there and hopefully it's not eating the rest of whatever's in that bag, or if it was just because it's on my shelf. None of my other wools were touched, which is why I'm kind of leaning in that direction. Honestly, I'm a little afraid to go find the gown bag that it's in. We'll see. Anyway, so I did move all of my fabric from the bookshelf, which is now over here. The bookshelf didn't move. Everything else in the room moved, but the bookshelf is now on this side. And I don't know that I normally record from this area. Yeah, so all of the fabric is now in these bins here, and there's some more bins kind of back there. Yeah, back there. I have moved my work table so it now kind of goes across the room, and since I have more space in the kids study area where the video camera is right now, it just worked out. It's kind of great. I'm kind of liking it right now. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, I use cleaning as a stall tactic, so this was really just to avoid doing the sewing that I should have been doing. And it's okay to do that. It's okay to use cleaning to stall. Nesting phase is a very real thing, no matter your situation. So yeah, I have cleaned up a bit, moved some things around, decluttered. I moved some more prop-based cosplay-y type stuff down to the basement, which is where I do most of my foam work. I do bring foam up to the studio here, but I try to keep that minimal, and after I finish a project, I take everything back down to the basement because I don't want to kind of contaminate my fabric with foam dust and things. Of course, now that the fabric's all in bins, well, most of it. So down here is actually like knits and things that I use a little less regularly. But yeah, so yeah, a lot of that stuff's in the basement now, which is great. And if I do need to move out of this space and to the basement or another part of the house, it'll be a little bit easier, I guess. Maybe it might be a little bit easier. Just moving a bunch of the other equipment and things out of here. So, yeah. So what am I working on right now? Right now, Well, let's do an update on why I'm stalling on Sailor Mercury and Princess Tiana. So I did hear back from the service team, service tech. I don't the random person who does the sewing machine maintenance. I feel like they're a technician. I don't know. I really need to get up on my shop terms. Anyway, so I heard back from the sewing shop that offered me the refurbished embroidery machine. It's a beautiful machine. The model is a great model. It's probably going to fit my needs perfectly, but the machine that I'm waiting on is still in refurbish mode. It's almost like, it sounds like a near complete replacement of all the important bits, but I don't know enough about machine repair and that sort of thing to make it my own assessment, and I wouldn't try to do that. I know how to clean my machines regularly, and I know how to oil the ones that need to be oiled, and my machines are not terribly old. So yeah. Anyway, so I had a kind of email exchange with the tech that's working on the machine, and that is a very long project. He expected it to be something, and it wasn't that something, and he tried to, hit the help button, and that didn't work out. It's an issue that could have negative effects on the machine down the road, whatever. It's fine. It's fine. Since I'd already resigned myself to just using the machine that I have, my machine is fine. I need to keep telling myself that. My machine is fine. It's just small. And digitizing what I have in mind to fit a small machine and then having to line it up tiny piece by tiny piece on both of the gowns, it's just something I was trying to avoid. But it's not the end of the world, which is why I'm just working on the digitizing in smaller pieces. It's not taking any more or less time. I'm just not standing at the machine doing the digitizing this week. I will. It's it's one of those things. You don't necessarily want to do the dishes in the sink, but they have to get done if you want to have a clean kitchen. So that's where we are. Anyway, so another couple of weeks before I get another update on the refurbished machine. Perfectly fine. As it happens, we are now coming into September soon. So I need to get a Tudor gown done. Let me rephrase that. I want to get a Tudor gown done before the end of September for an event that I hope happens. It's an event that I hope happens, but with the global situation we've got right now, I don't know. I'm at home anyway, but if events start getting canceled again, and a couple of events have been, kind of changing their mandates and parameters, but I don't know. We'll see. So I am working on the Tudor Kirtle that I started with. I don't even remember. I don't even remember when our last update was. Oh gosh. So the last time I talked about this Tudor Kirtle, according to my YouTube studio, was 2 months ago. I didn't realize it had been 2 months. Now, 2 months could mean the end of June, I guess? Oh, it had to have been June. Yeah, it had to have been June. Oh my gosh, where did the summer go, y'all? Okay, so, yeah, a while ago, I mentioned a Tudor Kirtle that I was working on, and apparently it's been sitting over there for a while. My machines are now here, so again, all over the place. Wow. Okay, so that's what I'm doing right now. So when I started the Tudor Kirtle, I was using the Tudor Tailor book. I like some of the pictures better in the Tudor Child, and the gown, they have the Henrician gown that's similar to the one in the Tudor first Tudor Tailor book. I think that one is worn over the one in the child book is worn over a farthingale. The one in the first book is just without hoops, and that's great. But I kind of like the pictures and the kind of detail of the back in the child book. So anyway, I had originally started going through the Tudor tailor and working on the Henry Shane gown in there. But I didn't have the patterns that go with the Tudor tailor Henry Shane gown. I have some other Tudor tailor patterns, whatever. So instead, I decided, I'll just use my Margot Anderson pattern set because I have all of those, or I have the big sets from Margot Anderson back to 2000, early in the 2000s, I think, mid 2000s. But anyway, so I decided, I'll use my Margot Anderson patterns, but use the Tudor tailor instructions because I've made all of the Margot stuff and the instructions are great. But I want to work through the Tudor tailor books since I've had those for probably very nearly as long and haven't made much outside of shirts and head accessory things. Not entirely true. I think I've made more out of the Tudor child than I have out of the Tudor tailor. But anyway, so I was essentially Frankensteining the Margot patterns to fit the pieces that were in the Tudor tailor so that I could just go through those instructions and have something fancy and new. Okay. However, I don't have or can't find the Kirtle pieces in Margot Anderson's Tudor ladies wardrobe. I don't know where the skirt pattern pieces are. I have the Kirtle bodice. I have no idea. I have no idea where these pattern pieces are. So then I was like, you know what? It's fine. I'm already cutting apart my first Italian gown from like 2009, maybe? 2010? No, it had to be. We're going to say 2010, but it was probably 2011 because my first child was born at that point. So, yeah, we'll say in that range. I don't wear it. I had made it for nursing, so it had a placket across the front, and it laced up the front under the placket, kind of like a Tudor gown, I don't know what I was thinking. I was super in mommy mode at that point, so I made some questionable sewing decisions that year. But anyway, so I can't find the skirt pieces for this kirtle. And I'm like, you know what? It's fine. I'm just going to use the skirt I had from that Italian-ish Renaissance gown. Well, I didn't make those skirts big enough because I was working in a set amount of fabric at the time. I think it's really hard to remember what I was going through back then. But anyway, so I take this gown apart and decide that it's going to be the front panel and the neckline edging on this new gown because I don't want to buy new fabric because I'm trying to behave myself while we're in the house and I don't need to be buying more fabric. Hence this situation back here. And then I'd also decided that I wanted to use my Burnley and Trowbridge brown silk taffeta, which is in the short sack petticoat. It's lovely and it's a basic color. So I'm thinking, okay, I'll use the green from the gown and the brown, and it's going to kind of, I don't know, look like a tree. Tudor dryad. Let's go with that. I'm going to be a Tudor dryad. So that's where my thought process was. But then I had to cut the skirts and then I had to piece the skirts. And now I'm all over the place. What I ended up doing was going back to my Margot Anderson Elizabethan underskirt, which is like, let me check. It's number 2. It's number 2 in the Margot Anderson line of patterns. The underskirt is it's kind of like it's a regular skirt, I guess. It's not square all the way around. Like it's just not panels of fabric. I think it does have some shaping at the top, if I remember correctly. But what's most important is it tells me it gives me a piece for the front panel, which was kind of what I was trying to do for the Tudor tailor bit. There is no way to explain this easily. I'm at the stage now where I finally decided, you know what, the skirts are what the skirts are going to be. I've kind of cut them to skirt-like shapes that kind of match the Tudor Tailor pattern set, which is different from the Margot Anderson Tudor ladies wardrobe. But the lining for the skirts, now that I got the outside done, the lining for the skirts is from my very first Renaissance outfit ever back in 2006. No judgments, no judgments. I still have the patterns and I stand by my choices. But that said, it doesn't match anything else. I just needed the cotton sheeting from that skirt, so I cut it out. It was a like a two-tiered skirt, so if you wanted to kind of pull up the outer skirt layer, you could, and then you'd still have an underskirt, so it was very fancy. And everything was just put into the same waistband. So I cut that off, which makes it shorter than the length I'm going to need, but it's lining, so I'm going to face the lining to meet up the two edges. So now I have questionable outer skirt shapes that do not include the brown silk taffeta that I had originally thought was going to make up most of the kirtle. Instead, I have a bodice, and I'll show you this in a minute. I have a bodice that's brown on the bottom, then green on the top, and then the skirting, because I did end up having enough skirting to go all around the kirtle instead of just doing the front panel in the fancy fabric, front panel and hem in the fancy fabric, and the rest of the gown in the taffeta. I now have a mostly green kirtle situation. So it kind of looks like, you know, for a while, I want to say in the early 2000s, how people were using lettuce instead of buns on their hamburgers and like hot dogs and stuff. That's kind of what this reminds me of. Also, I was one of those people. It's fine. It's fine. Bread is not the enemy. Unless it is your enemy because of allergies and things, and I'm sorry for you. Anyway, so now I'm at the stage where I need to flatline the lining, which is going to help the outer gown fabric stand out more and kind of look fuller, I guess. And then I need to put all of that into the bodice. The bodice is kind of in a good place. This is mostly supposed to be machine stitched. That's not what happened. I did machine basting, and then I have been hand stitching everything else because that's what I am used to and that's what I like, and that's fine. But oof. So yeah, so today's goal is to kind of just put everything else together. I need to flatline the lining, then I need to I need to stitch the fashion fabric layers of the skirt together, and then it's not, I guess it is kind of a bag lining because I'll be attaching, no, it's not a bag lining. I think the lining of the skirt gets applied after the rest of the kirtle is done, and then I'm just stitching the lining over to cover the inside. I can't remember. I'm, again, going from two different sets of pattern instructions just because of the way I have Frankensteined this so far. So I'm using the Tudor Tailor as my framework, but using the Margot Anderson techniques to fill in where I've made my own edits. One day, I'm just going to use one pattern for a thing. One. Again, I've been through the Margot... I've been through the Margot Anderson patterns without any other assistance. I just wanted to go back and try something else, and then I still fell back on my Margot Andersons because they're great patterns, and I love the kind of theatrical tailoring situation that goes into all of that. But anyway, I feel like I talked about that before. So today we flatline the lining, put the skirt together, and try to attach it to the bodice. If I have time, maybe later, I will put the lining in. I don't know. It's vacation week. Anything could happen. Oh, I worked on Lady Poppy, kind of. She was on the whiteboard a long time ago because I want to make another, what's essentially a late Italian Renaissance gown. I don't know. I did finish my embroidery for Lady Poppy's seams. So this is the Kamicha. I hope that's close enough. This is the Kamicha. I will put a picture somewhere. And I was embroidering the seams with this fancy detail, decorative embroidery that is in Patterns of Fashion, whichever the shifts and colors one is. Um, I finished that part. Now I have to do the neckline embroidery, and I haven't quite decided what that's going to be yet. And the more I look at Patterns of Fashion, I'm thinking it should be like a lace situation, but also I don't want to make I don't want to make custom lace for this. That that's hard. That's hard. I don't want to do it. I am not qualified, nor do I have time to get qualified with everything else going on, especially because I'm still complaining about doing the digitizing for the things that do kind of need to get done. So for Lady Poppy, essentially what I want is poppies in gold to go around the edge of the collar. We'll see. I think what's going to happen is I'm going to embroider on linen in gold and red because I'm kind of trying to match something from the comic book. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But I did finish the rest of it and I was able to wear it and take some pictures, and that was fun. But that's also kind of a stall tactic for getting everything else off the work table. Once this kirtle is done, I need to figure out what I'm going to wear over it because the event is TudorCon and it's at the beginning of October. It's not necessarily it's not a costume event. It's a Tudor history event, but people do, wear garb, and that's kind of fun. So yeah. Yeah. I wanted a new gown, but I hadn't really thought that through. And since the kirtle was a stall tactic for everything else that I was doing, I didn't really think so far ahead. I was actually going to buy a whole new set of fabrics for both the kirtle and the gown. Didn't end up doing that because I was like, why am I spending all this money when I have gowns that I can take apart and, refit for different styles? And here we are. So I'm thinking if I stick with the kind of tree theme that I've thrown myself into, then I'm going for either maybe like a berry color gown. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about berry. I like pink. Pink's fine. I've done a little bit of red. Red's not really, I don't know. Red comes up a fair amount, but I haven't done a full red gown. And I don't think that red would match the green without making it look like Christmas. But if I could get a berry color, then I might look like a flowering tree. I honestly don't know. Color palettes are not are not my situation. So yeah, I need to find some gown fabric soon so that I can order it and make another Tudor gown, because the one that I have is blue, which is not going to match the green in a way that I'm going to be happy with, I think. I'll pull it out and check, but I don't think so. Plus I didn't really like the way I did the any part of that gown in the top. The sleeves are fitted a little weird. The placard is, or placket, the placket is not, it's kind of wibbly. It moves up and down. It technically, I think I put it on according to the instructions, but I don't think it was stiff enough to stay kind of in place the way I want. So I need to, I want a new gown. I only have one Tudor gown. That one was from the Margot Anderson set. And I want a new one, so I'm gonna make one. Yeah. But then, yeah. That's where I think I am. So I'm going to try to get this kirtle done this week, and then I will order some fabric for an actual gown. It's going to be so much fabric. And then I believe that'll be it for anything pseudo Ren Fair. We're not actually going to the Ren Fair this year. I might be able to go as a part of the TudorCon event, provided nothing crazy goes down before then. But outside is so far out of reach right now for all of us going out and doing things together, and that's fine. We had our backyard Ren Fair last year, and it was awesome, and I would love to do it again. Potentially with a couple of friends in the backyard. That would be cool. Have some people come over and share in the turkey legs and music with us. So we'll see. Last year we did that in October, and we have another vacation coming up in October. So we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. What else? What else? What else? What else? So that's going to be a thing. I don't have anything else crazy planned. I want to get Mercury done. I was kind of hoping to get Mercury done for September, but she doesn't have to be done. She's basically a summer gown. The princess part of it, anyway, is basically a summer gown. Not that it matters, because it's not like I'm going anywhere, but I kind of wanted to get that done before, you know, cold. So, but then I added more things to that project, so I need to make a harp. And I have some reference images for that, both from the period and from the show. I'll be making that out of foam, so I will have to clean the basement studio so that I have some space to work on that. Princess Tiana, like I said, is in the embroidery stage, but I am playing around with the 3D printing designs for her hair accessory. I got a jewelry printer, which I think I mentioned in maybe the Squidsmith video. I essentially overnighted a new printer because my larger 3D printer was fighting my gold filament. My fault, not the printer's fault. Definitely my fault. But I haven't been able to get it working with the filament I want. It's working with other filaments, kind of. It needs a cleaning. It needs an upgrade. I need to upgrade gears and things, whatever. It's fine. So I essentially overnighted what is now a jewelry printer, because all I do is print earrings and little findings and pieces on it. I'm testing a pattern, not a pattern, I'm testing a design for fan spines. I think they're called spines. If you have a fan, the bits that make up the fan that you attach the fabric or lace or whatever to, I wanted to do a custom design for that. So the printer's not big enough to print. It's only a 4x4 plate, so a 4x4 inch plate. So it's not big enough to print the fan size that I'm going to want in the end, but it is big enough to test a print. So I'm just kind of trying to understand how something like a filigree. Now, filigree is made by twisting a bunch of wires, bits of wire, to make designs and kind of layering pieces of metal on each other. But the filigree that's like, you know, holes cut out of metal, that's what we're going for. I think that's what we're going for. So I've been playing around with those designs, and I can at least see what that type of filigree would look on a 3D printer. It's not a very fine printer. It works. It's very small, but it works, and I've been able to get some pretty neat stuff out of it. So I've been working on that for Tiana. I'll need to do the same for Mercury's hair ornament as well, because that one is going to be a, what is it called? Diadem? I don't know. It's a comb. It's going to go in the kind of ponytail thing, and I'm attaching cameos, Sailor Moon cameos, to the top of the crown and some other places on the ensemble. So yeah, I need to make a setting for this headpiece that's going to fit the cameo. It's a whole thing, but I'm very excited to do it. I could probably just twist some wire together and make a little, you know, hair comb. I've done that before, but it would be cool to print it just to get the practice in. So we'll see. I don't know. So yes, lots of 3D printing stuff, lots of embroidery digitizing that needs to get done. I think that's it. I think that's it. I think that's as much catch up as I can do without breaking into tears over the amount of fabric scraps that I have on the floor. So behind my chair, which is here, there are one, two, three, two bins and a huge bag full of fabric scraps. And I have decided to go through them again to find the pieces that are going to be best for pockets and wallets and sewing kit roll housewives. I need to check the plural on that. Anyway, so I'm going back through the fabric scraps to get them organized, and then I can shred everything else to make bum rolls and bum pads and things, and not have 3 bins of fabric scraps in the middle of the studio. So yeah, that's where we are. And now I haven't, my coffee's cold because I haven't been drinking it, but I like chatting at the camera every once in a while. So that's your update, and now we're gonna get sewing. Back in June, I cut the silk. It was a good time. I'd already completed 2 mock-ups of the Kirtle's bodice, so these shapes were tested well in advance. I found my rotary cutter, of which I am not a fan, and used it on the curves. My normal pattern adjustments are for a shorter length, more narrow shoulders, and a significant bit of sway back as compared to most standard patterns. I love the instructions for those common changes in the Margot Anderson manuals, and I fully recommend reading through them before you dive into any project. I also pulled out my new sewing kit shears just to feel fancy. After all of the layers were basted, I cut generic lengths of synthetic whalebone from the mock-ups. Then, I verified the size of the lining layers to make sure they weren't too different from the rest of the bodice. The back has no boning at this point. Next, it's time to finish the boning ends. I'll be using my Dremel rotary tool, which I originally got for cosplay foam work. When Red Threaded released their rotary bit for synthetic whalebone, this became my new favorite power tool in the sewing studio. And whenever I use power tools, I always grab the appropriate safety gear. Then it's time to number all of the bones and channels so that I can do all of the smoothing in one shot. Since no one will see the inner canvas, I just use a pencil to mark both. Because it's one of my favorite things, here's a quick demo of how I do the boning ends. Safety first. I have my goggles and mask, and I'm doing this over a cutting mat that I use for non-fabric projects. I use a pair of metal scissors or tin snips to cut my boning. Now, weather and time of day permitting, I prefer to work over my shop vac, and that collects most of the plastic dust, but a cardboard box is fine as well. Even with the time lapse, this process doesn't take more than a minute for each length of boning. After that, I can insert the bones. I use the end of my seam gauge to push the bones all of the way to the closed ends, but I've used eating sticks and a cuticle pusher in the past. Once all of the bones are in their assigned slots, it's time to do a final check of seam allowances. The canvas and linen were cut inside of the outer velour and silk layers to ensure that I'd have something to fold over when it's time to add the lining. As a reminder, this kirtle only needs to look the part of an early to mid-16th century English-ish style on the outside, so all of the guts that you're seeing were chosen for comfort and accessibility. Okay, I'm going to apologize now because the dogs in my neighborhood are going completely off. I think I've mentioned before, I live next door to a lot of dogs, like foster program number of dogs. They're very cute. They're very, yeah, they're dogs. It's fine. I love dogs. Anyway, so what we have here is the top of the Tudor kirtle. This is that brown silk that I mentioned, and this is the green damask that was in my Italian gown from the mid 2010 area. Anyway, the neckband is going to be jeweled at the end of this situation. I have piping underneath, which I don't think I made on my original kirtle that I made from this pattern, but now that I understand how it's supposed to be, it makes a lot more sense. So, opening it up, and this is just the pieced lining that I have turned up the edges for so that I can apply that by hand at the very end, or next to last as a step. I I did deviate just a little bit, again, because I'm kind of combining pattern instructions. So I've already joined my straps to the front bodice piece. This is going to be side lacing. It's one of my favorite ways to do curdles. I just like to have the option of not lacing or not needing to lace myself up the back. So side lacing is great, and because of my bust fullness, lacing up the front is an engineering situation that I just didn't want to deal with for this because I want the flat front for the gown. There is a lot going on outside. Okay, so anyway, so this is the front. It's only boned to about here. I am going to put boning in where the lacing will be, behind the, or in front of, I guess, the eyelets. But that's going to be kind of a last step sort of thing. I am short-waisted, but with a full bust. But also for the Tudor, I guess, silhouette, it's closer to the natural waistline. So this all worked in the two mock-ups that I did. I am mostly confident that it's going to work out. I think the back is too high, but I'm also not too high in the waist, but it is too long. The back might be too long, but I always have to deal with sway back. So I'd rather it be not, I'd rather it fit around the waist than be too high or whatever in the back. And once I get the jewels on here, I'd rather be able to see the jewels in the back as well. So yeah, we'll see what it looks like in the end. If it doesn't work out, I just won't put the jewels on it, and I'll use it as a regular kirtle. I am not concerned. I take things apart and put them back together in different ways all the time. So this is where we are right now. It is machine. Wait, this is not machine basting. I hand basted this. Good job, me. I think I machine basted the front, but I hand basted the back. So that's cool. But like I said, it's very much, like a tree right now. So that's the front. The inside is catch stitched around the edges, and that was an adventure. It's already put together because I know that the strapping should work. I did the mock-up twice. One I think even had boning, so I am mostly confident that this is going to fit the way it's supposed to. But that was last night's situation. And now we're dealing with the skirt. So this is the canvas. This is the front fold, which I'm going to need to iron out before I get started on this next piece. I did have to piece this together. I am down to my last bits of canvas in the studio, and that's crazy because I always have canvas around. I bought a 20-yard bolt of canvas years ago, and I'm finally down to the last pieces, so I might actually have to do like a legit supply run at some point. But I was able to piece together enough just to make the front panel. Now this front panel matches the lining, which, as I mentioned, is from the Simplicity pattern. And if I move this over, you can see that the lining, because I cut it out of what was already a short skirt, or short underskirt, doesn't match the lining on the fashion fabric for the skirt. And this, again, is that green damask. I'm not worried about that because I'm going to be facing it probably with a velvet. I think I have a good contrast velvet around the house. If not, I have other options that I can face the bottom with. Hems are very rapidly becoming a focus point for me because I've always kind of left them to last. They were always something that I just put together in the hurry or just safety pinned up, and I'm trying to get past that and finish things in a sturdier way. Because I'll be wearing this probably at the Ren Fair, my hems are going to get jacked up, and that's perfectly fine. But if I face them with like a denim or some wool scraps or something, or again, the velvet, I'm going to feel a little less bad about that. As long as it matches, I don't really think it takes away from the gown. I'm not going for full historical situations here. We are historically inspired in ways that will not break my brain or my bank. So that's where we are with that. So now I need to, oh, but the canvas does go all the way down to the edge. I will probably end up trimming it once I get the facing, whatever that's going to be on the hem. But for right now, I wanted it to match the length of the fashion fabric, since the fashion fabric is pretty much where the hem should be on the gown, without hoops or anything. This is just going to be a straight gown that I wear without the hoops, which is great because I don't get to do that often. And for once, I'm going to make the front the correct length for walking and for being on stairs, because I do have to walk up and down hills and, you know, stairs when we're going to events and things. So I want to make sure that I can walk without having to pull everything up quite so high. Sometimes I have to like pull it up to my knees to get up a set of stairs. So anyway, so right now I'm just going to open out the lining, flatline this after I iron the canvas again. It doesn't have to be perfectly ironed, but it does need to be a little flatter than what it is right now. Once that's done, I will attach the fashion fabric to the Kirtle, I think, in both sets of instructions. I think that's where we're going. And just so you can see, this is the back panel for the Kirtle. I did have to piece here at the center back because originally this is where I had an opening on, this was the front of my Italian-ish gown, and I had to just put a piece over that because there was a slit there. So that's now pieced. This is going to go on the back and will be closed. I'm going to attach the fashion fabric pieces after I do the lining. Yeah, so let's get started. This is just a lot of me smoothing out skirt fabric. I'm marking middles, edges, and where pleats should begin and end. There's also a lot of pinning. I used to be one of those people who refused to baste with pins only because it took too long. I had no problem guesstimating where the seams should start and end, but I got tired of all my hems coming out weird, so now I baste either by hand or with pins pretty obsessively. The drape of all the layers together is okay, but I'm putting a lot of faith in the final gown, providing a more pulled together feel. And then it's time to attach the skirts to the bodice. More pinning, marking, and pleating happens in addition to some hand basting and stitching. I'm leaving the center point free since I'll need to mark that with the undergarments on, but I join the lining and the fashion fabric at the side openings. And then it's time to prepare the sides for lacing. I'm folding over the edges of the interlined silk with a piece of boning inserted to keep the channel the correct size. I think I'm doing another catch stitch here. I definitely could have used slightly wider seam allowances, but once the lacing holes are in, it'll be fine. Oh, there's that catch stitch. The boning for the lacing is in, so it's time to add the lining. By hand. Hooray. And this is your reminder that the best linings are stash busted. Some of that pink cotton was definitely used in my Victorian combinations. The seam allowance is folded under about 1/8 to 1/4 inch inside of the outer layer, depending upon how much I care if it's even or not. I sew late at night, so anything goes. I pin the edges in place, all of them, and you don't need to watch my pain, so let's move on. Hi team! So it's time for an update, I think. It is Wednesday, some day in August. There we go. Wednesday, August 25th, 2021, and I have made progress on the Tudor Kirtle. Woo! I have put most of it together. I'm staring at it right now. I guess I should show you. I'll show you upside down. This is all I have left to do. This is the center front point, and it's something that I should have done many steps ago, but as I mentioned, I'm using 2 different sets of instructions and my own brain to put this thing together because it's stash busted and Frankensteined and all of these things. I am pleased with it so far. I can get it on my body. Everything still fits the way I vaguely remember it fitting 2 months ago in mock-up stage, so maybe this will work. I have tried it on over my undergarments, which are here. At the moment, it's just that cropped shirt, smock, whatever from the portrait gown, which I am going to make into a full shirt, but not today. So it fits over that, and then the pillowcase petticoat, which doesn't add a whole bunch of flounce, but it's better than just having it over a crop shift situation. So that's done. I put the lining in the kirtle. The lining, again, comes from an old Ren Fair skirt and then some just stash busted fabrics in the bodice. So that's done. There is something in my eye. It's super annoying. My life is so hard. The hem, since this green was part of a gown over a decade ago, it's mostly even. Kind of like the sides are a little higher than they should be, but I'm going to need to take the hem up at least 2 inches anyway. Now, what had happened was I accidentally ordered new shoes. I have a pair of shoes that I wear to the Ren Fair that are very comfortable. They're kind of like those, not orthopedic shoes, but they have a nice thick rubber sole, and they're black leather and they have visible stitching. I'll just show you because I'm terrible at describing things. Hold please. Okay, so here are the shoes. They are fine. They have a lot of wear because these were my favorite. These have been my favorite Ren Fair shoes for, again, definitely over a decade. They are only just now, many years later, starting to come apart in the toe. I still wear them. It doesn't stop me from wearing them. Most of my gowns cover them anyway. My biggest issue with these shoes, they're kind of coming apart over the strap as well, but again, not a big deal. They're super comfortable, and I think I found them in they don't even have a brand on them. Wait, we might have a brand. No. Naturalizer. Okay, these are Naturalizer brand. So there you go. They're Naturalizer brand shoes. They're a Mary Jane style. They have the visible stitching. They're super comfortable. I wore these forever. I wore them forever and I love them. Sometimes when I'm walking around all day, they make my feet look a little swollen. But I wore them when my feet actually were swollen during pregnancy, and they were still comfortable. I didn't have any problems getting them on and off. So yes. But for this new, oh, also the toe shape is reasonable. It's reasonable. It's not any specific toe shape. It's obviously a modern shoe, but it's not offensively pointy or stupidly square. That tapered square that happens in more modern square toe shoes, that hurts me. That hurts me deep inside. But anyway, so what I did was I ordered some new shoes that are, you know, like reproduction-y. So hopefully they'll be here, I think, Friday. And I might be able to sneak that into this vlog before I have to edit and post it. So we'll see. But I ordered two pairs of shoes. One are a medieval Renaissance generic sort of shoe. I ordered those in brown because I don't have brown Ren Fair shoes. Everything I do is for the Ren Fair. If I can't if I can't wear it to the Ren Fair, then I don't need it in my closet. Even though there's no Ren Fair right now for us, I'm just prancing around my backyard and occasionally in my kitchen or the back room, just staring at the outside. So the first pair is a medieval Renaissance kind of shoe. I think they're based off of the Mary Rose, something they found on the Mary Rose, which was 1545, which works for me. I don't care. The second pair of shoes that I bought are, from what I can tell, very much used for Lens Connect impressions, and I love the German styles. I have a few German model book. I'm still working on my German. Yeah, thanks Duolingo. Anyway, so I bought a pair of the square cow mouth shoes, I guess. Mostly to go with this gown. There are a couple pairs that I found on the internet and I really like them, but I'm also super impatient and these could be shipped same day. So I bought them. I think they're probably going to work just fine. And now I have another pair of shoes and I will probably end up wearing them to the workplace because they're super cute. I don't know what that says about me. Anyway, so that's a thing that's happening and that's justified by this gown that I'm making right now. Or this kirtle that I'm making right now, because I have absolutely no idea what the gown is going to be. I think I've kind of settled on a berry color or perhaps like an orange with gold tones color. I'm trying to stay away from Christmas because all you will be able to see from the kirtle is the green. You won't be able to see the brown. Detected at the front door. Why, thank you. So I've been calling it the Dryad Kirtle because it's green and brown, but you'll only be able to see the green under whatever gown I decide to wear over it. So plus the gems, the ouches that I purchased are green and gold with pearls. So I want something bright. I think I want something bright. I might decide that I just want to go black for the gown, which would be fine as well. And maybe add some gold accents. I'm really not sure. Anyway, so what I have left to do is get that center front point attached. I attached it all the way up through the pleats on the front. So the pleats are all attached, but I stopped right at the edge of the pleats. All of this is a flat front. I'm going to have to slit it down the center just a couple of inches, I think, because we're trying to keep it even, not even a couple of inches because the waist is so high anyway. So then I'll be able to stitch that part down. But in order to do that, I need to put eyelets in. Now, I have done a number of hand sewn eyelets, and I would say most of the time I do hand sewn eyelets. I don't like doing hand sewn eyelets through canvas. And the front of this, although I'm feeling it right now and kind of changing my mind, the front of this is, I think, 2 layers of canvas plus the silk plus the lining, which is cotton. It shouldn't be terrible. I have a number of needles. I don't have great thread though, and that's what I'm called. That's how I'm going to justify this next part. Brace yourselves, kids. I think I'm going to do them on the hand press. I know. But hear me out. I don't feel like doing hand sewn eyelets, period. It's my vacation week and I should be happy. I have, I think I have some threads that might be okay, but most of my threads are machine thread and that's not eyelet thread. So I know I have black carpet and upholstery or some kind of button thread, maybe. I'm not really sure. I have that in a tan and a black. Both of those would work, and these eyelets no one should be seeing. And with the construction and stash busting that I've already done on this gown, I shouldn't care. And I mostly don't, which is why I'm kind of thinking I'm going to do these in the hand press. So what I'm going to do first is, I just noticed that my edges are uneven. But again, they're going to connect under, this is side lacing, it's going to connect under my arms. So I'm not that concerned. But I need to get the eyelets in before I slit the center front and stitch it down and then do the hem. So once the eyelets are in, I can mark both of those things and then just sit down on the couch and get it done. The hem is kind of going to be a pain, but we'll work through it. Half of the hem is already serged from being in the other gown. Like I said, I have to take it up about 2 inches, I think. I kind of want to wait until the shoes are here to get that done. So if I do absolutely nothing for the next 2 days, I could probably get the eyelets done. I could just sit on the couch and do that. I really kind of don't want to. So yeah, but I should, again, do the hem in the shoes that I'm going to be wearing with the gown, which are going to be those squared cow mouth shoes. So we'll see. I think that's all I have left though. And then at the end, when it's done, I'll be able to put on the ouches, which are very exciting. I have never had a jeweled gown. I think I put plastic pearls on my first full Ren Fair gown. It was a look. That's back when I started, and I was very much torn between wanting the German style bits, they look kind of pieced everywhere. Like there were all kinds of different fabrics and trims and things going on. And I kind of wanted that, but I was terrified. And I was also working with polyester that frayed a lot. So most of the striping in that first gown, specifically in the skirting, was piecing because it was falling apart. There was a section where I didn't notice that they had wrapped 2 different kinds of fabric that was the same color and fiber, but not the same print. So I had large damask polyester, like the melty kind of polyester, and smaller print. So I had to piece that together because I didn't figure it out until I was already cutting the skirt. So I pieced it. It was maroon and gold, which were my school colors. So that was weird, but I loved it. And then I added some black accents, and it had shoulder rolls, and it was all over the place. And then after it, I already been wearing it for a little while. I think the following year or 2 years later, we went back, and I decided to wear the gown again, and I had added some things to my husband's corresponding outfit. So I put some little plastic pearls on the bodice of mine, just willy-nilly and free. It was a choice. I stand by that choice. I don't have that dress anymore, but it was super fun. Anyway, so for this gown, I have no idea what I'm doing. I think I'm going to consider using some of the silk in the hem, but I don't want to put silk on the bottom of my gown, but I don't think I have anything else that's like that same color brown, but I also think that that's the only thing I'm going to like if I can't find more of the green, because I'm fairly certain I'm down to scraps on the green. So I have that to think about. But again, I need to get the eyelets measured, which I will probably do with my Simflex, which now that I've moved the studio around again, I have no idea where it is. I think, oh, it's right next to me. Actually, I have two options, so I completely forgot until just now that I ordered a lacing hole guide, which has been lovely. It's a ruler, and then it has 1 inch, 3/4 inch, and 1/2 inch centers. It's from Amped Atelier, and it's absolutely the coolest thing ever. So I have that as an option. And then I have my Simflex, which has lasted, until today, has lasted many, many eyelet measuring excursions, I guess. I don't know. But it works fine as well. So those are my two eyelet tools that I use the most. Yeah, again, of course, now that I'm thinking about it and I'm feeling the fabric, I very much think maybe I should just go ahead and do the hand sewn. I don't even know why I care, because like I said, this is the nicest thing. The nicest components of this stash buster are the plastic whalebone and the little bit of silk that I ended up using, because, oh, and it's so heavy. Oh my goodness. It's so heavy. So I tried it on over all of this when I was just trying to make sure that everything was going to even up, and I was probably going to be able to get it laced. It's heavy, and that's why I should have used more silk in the skirting, but I was just so excited that I had enough of the green to make a full kirtle. Silly goose. The other part of that is that I also realized I won't be able to make my undersleeves out of the green to match what's going to be visible in the forepart. So that's cool. I'm not going to cut it out at this point. I love myself too much for that. I did find some other inspiration images where that triangle of kirtle does not necessarily match the undersleeves, and obviously I can do whatever I want. I'm not usually ever going for historical accuracy, because what is historical accuracy anyway? But I'm used to having my forepart and my undersleeves match for like everything. So we're just gonna not do that. Instead, I think I have enough scrap of the green to make, it's not a puffin slash. I forget what it's called. You see it in, I'll have to find some images, and I want to say that you see it in some Italian peninsula type Renaissance-y things where it's the strip and then some shirt or underlay, I guess, and then more strips. I think I can piece that together, so we'll see. But that would be, again, in the undersleeve, and I've never done anything that way. Most of my undersleeves are just one piece because I was running super late and I just needed to get them done. So we'll see. But that is another opportunity to add some brown piping, which I used in the kirtle, to kind of put on the edges of those green scraps for the undersleeves, which I think would help bring more of the brown in, since you're not going to be able to see it, since we're going for some sort of dryad nonsense. This is very quickly becoming like a Halloween costume in my head, and that's not what I was going for. I just wanted to make another kirtle. But anyway, so that's where we are. And I'm gonna go mark some eyelets. I decided to go with the Simflex gauge to mark the spiral lacing holes. The top and bottom marks are made just outside the seam allowance so that I don't catch the bulk in the eyelets. It is at this point that I would like to note for the record that the underarm pieces need to be about a 1/2 inch higher. I probably overcompensated for the short waist measurement, but didn't realize my error until after the kirtle was done. Hi team! Today is Saturday, August something or other, 2021. August 28th, 28th. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. August 28th, 2021, and we're almost done with the Kirtle. We have just a couple things to finish. I need to put everything on and then mark the center front so that I can clip it in the skirt piece here and then stitch everything down so that it lays properly, I hope. This is one of my least favorite parts, I think. Even though that means we're almost done, if I mess it up, I have to do kind of repair stitches, and that makes me very sad. And it'll generally be covered by whatever gown I wear over top. But it's still just it's not stressful. It's just a little bit stressful. So I have to get that done. I even made a list. Look at me go. I need to then put everything on again so that I can mark the hem. Now, since this was a gown in its old life, the hem is kind of correct. It's a little wibbly. And I knew it was wibbly when I did the hem the first time, but I'm going to blame new mom head brain for that. That was a whole other me. So I should just be able to trim it down a bit, and then because the original gown was way too long and I kept most of that length, so I should be able to just trim it down to about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch, and then flip up the edge, attach it to the lining in some way, because again, the lining is not, I don't think the lining for the skirt that originally came from is as long as it, or as full, wasn't as full as it was. So I'll need to figure out a way to get that lining together, and then I will cover the hem in a velvet, possibly a denim that doesn't look like denim, or a polyester strip of something that doesn't look like leather or suede, I guess. I have this weird, you see it on hats in costume shops a lot. I'm not really sure what it is, but it looks like a faux suede. So I might cover it in that because it's brown. And I'll just have maybe the tiniest bit, maybe a 1/4 of an inch showing on the outside, which no one should be paying attention to, right? And then flip the rest of that strip over to the inside to stiffen the hem and to protect it from, walking around on the grounds. And if I need to, if it gets really beat up, I can just take it out and put a new strip in. So we have that to do. And then the very last step will be attaching the jewels, which I'm fairly certain I've shown before, but they're these very pretty things that this camera is not going to focus on. They came from Truly Hats, and they're absolutely lovely. And they'll just need to be attached along the entire neckline. I bought a bunch, and I believe I calculated that I can do the neckline of the kirtle. I can do the hood. I haven't decided if I want a gabled hood or a French hood, and I have a French hood. It's a bit small. I think I didn't add seam allowance or something. But it's a bit small. It fits. I've worn it before. I need to replace the band, the visible decorative band, with some fabric that I have around here somewhere. So I need to replace that. But I think I want to try a gabled hood. I'm very short, and if the gabled hood wants to give me, an inch or two, I'm down. So I should have enough ouches to do that. What else? Or I can do a French hood or a hood in general that's completely different, and use the rest of them for a girdle or a necklace, a choker, even whatever. That's not important. What's important is getting this done before the end of August, and this will be the final kind of summer project before we go back to, not quite before times, because I still don't have a bunch of events lined up, but certainly the kids are going to be going back to school. I have some office days that I'll be going in, just to kind of get us a little bit closer to some normalcy. Everyone is making considerations, so so I've got that to do, and I just want to get this project done, and then I can go back to my sewing late at night for a couple of hours, just trying to stuff things in, and then sitting on the couch on the weekends hand sewing. So speaking of hand sewing, I ended up going with hand sewn eyelets on the Kirtle. I I didn't guilt myself into doing it, but I realized, you know what? Yeah, I do want to do hand sewn eyelets. I've done a bazillion of them and I might as well get them out. I always like to just kind of refine my process for eyelets, I guess, which is, I assume the way that everyone else does eyelets. But this time I used my bone awl inside of the, I should probably just demonstrate this, but whatever. So I poked the hole with my regular metal awl because it's very sharp. It's very sharp. I love it. It's one of the ones you can pick up at the fabric store randomly, but it's just a metal awl, and I go through all the layers. I pull that awl out, and then I put my bone awl in the hole, and I just leave it there. So then I use I think it's an upholstery thread, which is doubled up, and I bury that inside the layers of the hole that's been made. Then I pull it through the bottom, no, down through the bottom, up through the center, to the outside, but I leave and I put beeswax on the thread. And then I have the awl put back in the hole, and it kind of keeps it one shape and size. Because what I noticed with my eyelets over the years, they're all kind of inconsistent in size, and that has to do with tension and how much I press the awl through the layers, how many layers are in those specific eyelet holes, because again, inconsistency in my seam allowances, I think. So I think that the eyelets on this Kirtle are the most consistent I've had in ages. And I'm just using I don't have any here with me, but I'm using just a braided cord for the lacing. It's nothing crazy. It's probably like a cotton, and it's pretty thick, so it has enough room to go through the holes. If I find a good satin cord, then I will probably, replace that. But it's lacing. I'm not terribly concerned. I'm not going to hand weave my braiding for this one, unless I have time. I do have some hand braided cording around here somewhere. It's somewhere. I don't know where it is. I could pop some on the loom, which is in this area, and, just get that started. But that's like 5 yards. So what I do, because again, I need to be able to lace, I need to be able to dress myself by myself, or I run the risk of not being able to try anything on or fit anything. If I had to wait for one of my family members to be awake in order to try things on and get hems done and things, I would never have anything done, anything at all. So my cording is always cut about 5 yards, depending on how much cording I actually have, but most of the time it's about 5 yards. And then I cut that in half, so we've got 2.5 yards on each side of a side-laced kirtle. That leaves very long tails after everything is tightened, but I just then knot or double knot or fold those tails over and kind of knot them and just let them hang inside the gown. It's not a big hardship. It's not annoying. Sometimes, depending on the gown I'm wearing, I'll pull the tails to the back and just wrap them here. It's fine. I don't have a problem with it. They rarely, very rarely come undone, especially since I use the cotton lacing cord. They're pretty tight, so I don't have that to worry about, but it's the only way I would ever get dressed by myself. So, yeah, so that's a thing that needs to get done, is just trying everything on, getting my levels done, and then I can attach the jewels and be done. Yay! And then I still have to figure out what gown this is going to be on top of, or underneath. What gown this is going to be underneath. I did go through some fabric samples. I posted to Instagram a couple days ago that I was looking for, that I was going to have to look on the Google for colors that would go in the gown that would kind of match this like dryad thing we've got going on in my tree colors, right? So I got some really good suggestions, and among them were creams and golds. And then I had one sample of a flamey orange taffeta. I think it's a changeable. It was a Burnley and Trowbridge sample, and it just gives me an idea of what colors I might want to have in the gown and the turnbacks, because I don't have enough of this green to make undersleeves unless I go through my stash over here and kind of find something. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'll go through the stash first, and then those samples that I put up, I got a lot of feedback on the creams and golds, and then like the orange, things that were very bright. And we do have examples in portraits that are, you know, pretty cool colors. So we'll go with that. I'm essentially going to go with what I can get the fastest and the cheapest. Now, this gown is going to need it's going to need in the 10-yard range. I hadn't planned to give it a train, and I definitely won't use the full 10 yards, but 10 yards is kind of my average ordering length. I just want to make sure I have enough. I'd rather have too much than not enough, obviously, and that goes with most things, which explains why my stash looks the way my stash looks. Anyway, so I need to find something that is not going to destroy my account, but also give me enough to finish the gown. It doesn't have to have a train. If it does, I'm not going to be sad about it. You know, like I said in another video, I don't have a lot of gowns with trains, but if they happen, they happen. I'm not going to complain about it. So yeah, that's where we are with that. So I'm going to get everything on and then try to get this knocked out in a day so that I can just sit on the couch this evening and attach those jewels, and then we'll try everything on tomorrow, and that'll be that. It's been a weird month. I don't even remember how it started. Oh, I remember how it started. It started with a photo shoot, so good times. Please note, this is not the way to do this center front point marking, and it doesn't warrant an explanation. That is all. For the shinies, I combined these gorgeous ouches from Truly hats with some jewelry findings that I found in my stash. I attached them to a scrap of the Kirtle fabric with doubled and waxed gold embroidery thread. I can't yet speak to the durability, but I used the same method for buttons. I stitched the jeweled strips around the Kirtle neckline with a whip stitch, and it can be removed pretty easily if necessary. The hem facing ended up being a strip of canvas ribbon covered in brown poly taffeta. The lining is loose since it didn't match the circumference of the outer fabric, but the canvas will be tacked in place when I'm ready to commit. I love that I was able to refashion another old piece, and I look forward to adding some new hotness when the gown fabric arrives. Thanks for hanging out!